now everybody, Jamie here, and today on the channel I'm going to do something a little bit different. Normally I'm reviewing board games or card games or miniatures games. Today I'm going to look at a role-playing game. Now I got to tell you that I love all kinds of tabletop gaming, but I have to tell you that I started with and I still say that role-playing games are my #1 love. And this role-playing game is gorgeous and fantastic. It's incredible, and I had to share it with everybody. I found this one at Gen Con this year. I bounced by the Tuesday Night Games booth, and they threw me these two copies. And this is Mothership, a science fiction horror role-playing game. Science fiction horror, you can play games like, Aliens, you can play Event Horizon, you can play Pandora, you can even play Jason X if you want, Jason in space, if you really want to make a bad game. But anyway, this is science fiction horror, and this is kind of an underserved market in the whole role-playing game world, I think. Usually we're looking at fantasy or cyberpunk or whatever. This one is science fiction horror specifically, and this game does a really fantastic job of capturing that. So we have the player's handbook here, and we also have Dead Planet, which is a sort of an adventure module, more of like a campaign guide for it. But I'm going to, in this video, look primarily at the player's handbook. Now, I want to say starting off that Mothership currently is in beta. This is a beta test type thing. You can get this physical copy if you want. You can order it online or you can get the PDF version, but it is currently in beta. But I will say right off the bat that I did not find anything beta about this game. This is straight up awesome the way it is, and if they improve upon this, it can only get better and more fantastic. So starting off here, the production is fairly well done. I mean, it's, like what I would look at like a rock and roll or a punk rock zine is what this kind of looks like to me. It's got a cardstock cover and, straight up pages. It's a fine production. As a matter of fact, it's very convenient the way this is done. And the production, I think, one of the main things that they focused on here, at least from my perspective, what I think is that they really focused on design of the product to make it extremely easy for players to get into. And I think that's awesome in this day and age. Graphic design is off the charts great. The sort of format of the book is fantastic. So let's open it up and see. This is an example of the graphic design being amazing and sort of the layout of this book being amazing. The weapons guide is immediately on the front cover. That's something that everybody's flipping to all the time to see. It's right there on the front cover. And as a matter of fact, on the flip side of the book, there's an entire player cheat sheet on the back cover of the book. All the major mechanisms of the game are right here. So you don't have to be flipping through. You just it's right there on the back of your book. What a fantastic product. So anyway, going into the game, character creation in this game is such a simplistic thing. This is one single page of character creation. Now, I will say also that almost every section of this book, with a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, every section is one single page, and that's all the rules there is. So it's an extremely easy game to get into, and it's extremely easy to find everything in this book. Character creation is so simplistic here. I mean, it's, like a couple of steps and you get through it. It could take you 2 minutes to build a basic character for a one-shot game, or you could put some real time into it, of course. And what's great about this system is that you pretty much don't need to go back to this character creation section ever again, because the character sheet has the entire character creation process sort of built into it with this flow chart here. I mean, it starts off, saying like you got to create your stats, and then there's a dotted line that leads over here to picking your class and picking your saves that go along with your class. Dotted line that goes over, pick your skills, and then you go down the list and pick your skills with a flow chart. It's fantastic. It's so simple to create a character in this game. I absolutely love it. Now, the way the game operates, I enjoy the system here. It's a D10 system, and for the most part, just about everything in the game is a D100 roll, like a 2D10, and one of them is the percentile die. So it's basically a percentile system. All your statistics are basically 1 through 100, or I guess it'd be 6 through 100 because it's 60-10, and you have to roll under that to succeed at things. So every single one of your skills is based off of one of your straight stats, which are strength, speed, intellect, and combat. So pretty much all of the rolls that you make are going to be, I mean, the majority of them are going to be ability rolls, whether they be straight strength if you're trying to bash through a door, or if you're doing something like chemistry, for example. Chemistry goes along with your intellect. So in this example character here, his intellect is 26. He has the chemistry skill, go up 10% plus to that. So 36 would be your target number to roll under. So that's how simple this game is. And I really like that aspect to it. There are some other D10 rolls. They have 2 D10s here and there, mostly for charts and things. So that's a really neat system. Now, what I want to talk about for the most part here is my favorite part about this game system, and that is the stress and panic system. This is what really makes this game great. And as a matter of fact, it's what really makes the sci-fi horror come out of this game. So stress is a thing that you need to manage throughout the game, similar to hit points in many other games. Of course, you have hit points in this game too. You have health, but this one also has a stress that you have to manage. And often throughout the game, you will need to take stress points. And when do you take stress points? Well, anytime the ship takes a hit, certain creatures and haunts and locations will give you stress. If you get knocked unconscious, if you go 24 hours without rest, if you go 24 hours without food or water, you gain stress. Now, basically, any stressful situation that you can think of from this whole science fiction horror setting will give you one or more stress, and you manage that on your character sheet. So it's one by one. You know, you get 1 stress for doing that. You get 2 stress for doing that. And so that's something that happens to you throughout the game. And what are the ramifications of that? Well, every now and then you will need to take a stress test to see if you panic. And basically you roll a 2d10. If you ever roll under your stress, you panic. And then you need to roll on the panic chart, which is a 2d10, and you see the result over here. Now, when you roll that 2d10, you add your current stress level to it, which makes the result go higher on the chart. Higher on the chart is worse. And this is what's fantastic about the game, particularly because 2d10, you can only ever get 10, right? But then you add your stress. So up to 20, it's not so bad. You're not so bad all the way up to 20, but the more stress you have, the higher it goes, up to the point where if you have 10 or more stress, you could potentially roll a 30 plus, which is heart attack, instant death. Now, what this makes this game fantastic because, and stress is a great word for it too, because in an abstract way, this game makes you sort of feel sympathetic for the character that you're playing. You sort of have the empathy of, I am stressed because my character is stressed, because the more stress I get, the closer I am to accidentally rolling a heart attack and dying. So when you get into these tense situations, going through derelict spaceships or exploring these cannibal-infested planets or whatever you're doing, your player gets more stressed as the character gets more stressed, and you have to think twice about doing things. Oh, we got to go back to the ship and chill out for a couple hours, so I can so I can get my strength back. I can relieve some of this stress. And that's just a fantastic system to this game. And going through the book, there's just so much packed into this tiny little pamphlet book that's under 50 pages. I think it's like 46 pages or something. So much in here. Ship module design. So you get your ship and you have a character sheet for your ship. You could draw your ship out in all the different locations. It's got hull points, max fuel, the galley stock you manage here. It's got your weapons. It's got all sorts of stuff, your cargo manifest, and it has its own stats. And so you can manage your ship as its own character within the game. There is progression to the game as well through experience and gaining levels. And like I mentioned before, when you pick skills, a lot of it, there's a lot of blank spaces here, so you can create your own skills if you'd like. I think pretty much everything about this game is fantastic. It works really well. The book is organized perfectly. There's a couple of things that I'm not so keen on. First, I think this game is, it's like a kind of a niche market with the specific science fiction horror genre that it's taken. I happen to love that, but a lot of people might not. So it's kind of got its niche market here. I also think that it kind of sticks in the middle somewhere in the weight of role-playing games. It's not perfect for one-shots because your character starts out relatively weak, and you have to grow to something over time, getting more skills and getting more stats. So I think when you play it as a one-shot, you feel like you're failing a lot because your stats are pretty low. Because, I mean, look, this character right here, his strength is 39. So that's less than a 50% chance that you're going to break through the door when you have to, you know? So progression is kind of important in the game to get the full experience. So it's not quite as conducive to a one-shot unless you make characters of a higher level, which is fine. But it also doesn't have a robust progression system here that really is something to explore deeply. So if you're a character that likes the crunch of managing characters and different powers and choosing different ways to build a character, this one doesn't quite have that to a grand extent. So a long-term campaign of this is not going to be fun for people that like that. Usually the way I play my characters in games like this is the way this game is built for. That's why I love it so much. I usually like to progress my characters through personality and character growth, you know, role-play wise. For example, I would like to be Sarah Connor from Terminator and then grow to be Sarah Connor from Terminator 2. You know what I mean? She starts off not knowing anything, and she's, you know, just a waitress, and she's, you know, like damsel in distress, essentially. But by the end of the movie, she's grown in sort of will and mental strength. And by the second movie, she's a powerhouse. She's learned everything she needs to do. She can protect herself. She knows about guns. She knows about everything. So she's had a significant amount of character growth as well as some skill growth as well. And I think that's the kind of game that you need to play with this and not worry about the crunch of the system. But otherwise, this game is absolutely fantastic. I think there's just so much to it. So much in this, jammed into this little book. I absolutely adore this game. And if you're looking for a science fiction horror RPG, consider this one. Tuesday Night Games. I'm in love with it. It's incredible. Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.